who your enemy is and you're targeting a lineage or something, and you really do have power and money, I think in the end, 100% of the time you find out that you were destroying your own lineage. Like there's always this kind of like double entendre to everything, this kind of humor throughout the realm. Like that as soon as you think one person's better than the other or one lineage is more powerful than the other, you find out that actually, hang on a minute, that's your entire existence is based upon these people's earliest sort of achievements or yeah, you should not think that anyone's bad, even if they tell you, because I mean, there's so much falsifying now, as we've seen. You have to look into it for yourself, and I prefer the kind of concepts, sometimes misnomer people say that we're all created equal, which is a very biblical way to look at the world. And I think we all have the potential to ascend. But I don't think we're all the same. I think that there's definitely these demonic entities still here,
Yeah,
and I think just because the Nephilim no longer control giant bodies or dragons doesn't mean that they're not still amongst us, you know.
yeah.
Yeah,
That program is still running, and that's
100%.
yeah. I mean, that's the problem I think with the idea of like if these people go away, that things will be better. And it's like obviously before they became physical, there was an influence. They didn't just become physical. That's not the way things work. Things come
Yeah.
from a very subtle, sublime place, and then become physical. So these programs or these entities, whatever you want to call them, demons, messengers, what have you, those programs were already running in an ethereal way. You could wipe out all the people that we consider parasites today. It's not going to change the
Mm.
fact that those programs are still in ethereally or in around amongst us. So it's that we're all
Yeah.
going to have to deal with the same things as far as like in that way we are the same as far as like yeah we got to deal with pride, vanity, the seven sins. We all got to wrestle with staying true to humility and charity and with the seven virtues, what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we spend a lot of time focusing on like demons and finding out who they are, and it's kind of interesting, and people like it, especially if you've had a Christian upbringing. But none of that was a mistake. I mean, you can't say that that an angel does not have freedom to fall or to manifest himself in a three-dimensional realm. Why did they want to come here? What, if you prescribe to the, biblical text. And I think it's some of it is like a metaphor for other things, for more esoteric things. And if you look at the Bible in a spiritual way, it works. And if you look at it in a physical way, it's quite fascinating, the stories. But esoterically, everything does have some really powerful, deep kind of import. We think of the devil as a snake, but then in Egyptian hieroglyphs, it's the only times reptilians are mentioned when they're teaching us about electricity and ancient knowledge, right? And then we look at the snake on the tree, but the tree could also be the human body, and the snake could also be, uh, the nectar rising, and all of these kind of esoteric theories. But then the
It's
apple is this kind
kaleidoscopic.
of knowledge. So the apple is knowledge, and then you realize, well, an apple isn't a bad thing. An apple is actually a perfect torus field. So it's like this is a piece of electric energy, and if you eat peanuts which have the same geometry, you also get powerful electrically charged energy. So so can we look at this as negative and positive? No, we don't have to. We are allowed to think of it academically, and then you realize, oh, if you get bitten by a snake, that is actually not great because that's venom. But
Yeah.
then we have the good, we have the positive, the healing energy, Jesus, the Lamb of God, right? And then you realize, oh, so it does work academically because antivenom is derived from the blood of a lamb, even to this day. It's literally the antivenom is derived from lamb's blood. So so for something to do that, for something to work on those different levels, it has to be understood. Like you cannot I don't think you can really go very far without it to some extent because we've taken so much history from it. I mean, we've got everything mentioned in there. Sound waves destroying cities, Jericho, Nineveh. You've got giant whales swallowing people and then spitting them back to land, and you've got nothing like that on Earth now. But if you look at old maps, you have. And I absolutely love looking at the Bible as an esoteric thing, but I also think that spiritually there's some important things there that often I think the most important things are sometimes the ones that we don't really talk about. But like I think we mentioned fasting earlier. That's a good example too. You have a lot of information there about fasting and just understanding uh, that that you know this is an enclosed realm. There's nowhere for us to go. Every negative thing will return, or every positive thing will return, and we need to find that balance. And yeah, I mean, I think God's energy is electricity. I think that's the life force. I think electricity is the most important thing when it comes to understanding how this realm operates, how it works, how the human body works. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's kaleidoscopic. You know, you can't look at things in one dimension. It's
No.
complete. You know, it might be considered lore or whatever, but it's going to be embodied. You know, it's all going to be expressed in every dimension. So, um, yeah, I think it's it's script, it's scripture, it's code.
Yeah. The script, the
Some
scripture.
those
Yeah. Spelling
it's
spells.
gonna
Yeah.
those codes are gonna be executed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like the idea of it being a code and the matrix. So what do you think about our firmament and the matrix and how was it constructed? What do you think of all of that? Because that seems to be very hard for people to break away from that brainwashing of understanding the realm.
Um, man, there's a really good book called like the periodic tables in the Bible, the periodic table in the Bible. I think it's called like it's by Shibu Pothen. It's a quick read too. It's just about just the unfolding of the elements and everything, and so like how everything stems from hydrogen, hydrogen being or I guess you could go even further than that if you're going to like quarks and stuff. But like the first element is hydrogen, and when
Yeah.
hydrogen collides with itself, hydrogen collides with itself, it fuses and makes helium and light, and then we're off to the races. You get all the other elements. So when as helium fuses with itself, and then you get everything else, down the road, silica, carbon, all of that is coming until you get to iron and then the heavier metals. All of that is stemming from hydrogen colliding with itself. So the Bible seems to be just expressing that pattern. And
Mm.
in the book, he was saying that like the lightest metal, I think he was saying, is lithium, and that's what the firmament is made of. And
Okay.
it seemed to make sense to me. So some of the details, he's making it a very brief book, so some of the stuff is not as in depth as you maybe would like it to be, but it all seems to resonate, seem to ring true. That that's just like more so the patterns, like Adam and Eve, hydrogen and helium, however you want, and then on the line. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's yeah,
So do you think that's how we had these
yeah,
ancient
different.
flying cities? It was like helium as well, or do you think there was like something else involved, like water magic, radium, like maybe Schauberger's water movement? Where are we getting the
Yeah, I mean,
fuel from?
I've heard, yeah, I have heard that things aren't flying. It's just like a buoyancy thing. It's just the electrical buoyancy of like a butterfly or whatever. It's not necessarily flying. It's just the way it reacts in the
Yeah,
field.
yeah,
So, that type of stuff, makes sense to me. And if people are really light and they're really communicating, then yeah, I don't see why people wouldn't be on some Dragon Ball Z type stuff, man. I mean, I don't see, the potential is kind of endless and it goes into a cartoon realm. And I think like if you, um, have you done psychedelics or done DMT or like, psychedelic breath work, um, done breath, sensory deprivation breath work, stuff like that, then you're gonna cross over into a more vibrant core of the like every it's more vibrant than a cartoon. Cartoons are drab compared to what you experience in some of these natural experiences within yourself. So it's like this inner realm, this eternity that people have access to that's the ultimate reality people call heaven or whatever, and I feel like there's definitely levels to it, and that is so vibrant that I think most people would look at like cartoons are just trying to mimic this. This is trying to express what this is, and so on that inner verse or whatever, that inner space, that um if we have full expression of that, bringing that out, then there's no then yeah, you're not separating dreams from reality at that point. There's no wall there anymore. If the collective is living like that, so I don't see why. You're just gonna go into crazy town trying to talk about it though. Trying to be like, yeah, this is like this and this is like that. I don't think it's even fathomable until people have those experiences inside themselves. And then even then, I still think you're gonna sound psychotic. But I think if you got to look at it like if the whole collective had access to themselves like that, they had enough trust within themselves to where they could access themselves like that, then I don't think it would seem far fetched. And like that old saying goes, like the only difference between fact and fiction is that fiction has to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Fact could be literally anything, and you're waiting for people to argue with you or debate you on it. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of truths are hidden within fiction, like um, even children's cartoons. I think there's a lot of truth in there, and a lot of yeah, hidden sort of meanings. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think you need a very healthy collective. I don't think you're going to get that off alone. I think that's the only way the environment, the atmosphere is going to be conducive to that kind of experience.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
You
think
get it
that.
inside yourself. I think you can get it inside yourself individually, but for you to have it externally, we all got to be together.
Yeah, I was looking at like the crazy amount of traveling we were doing back in the 19th century before airplanes, and how we were kind of circumventing the the realm, and how all of these maps were so accurate, because there's still no real like, explanation as to how we got these maps so accurate in
Like
the
aerial
like
view, right?
yeah,
How do
like
you have
15th
how do you
century.
have you have an aerial map of Florida and all the curves?
Yeah, I mean, how'd you get a like a 1400s map of Australia with koala bears, when Australia hasn't even been discovered yet? And yeah, so I mean, there could be forgeries, I guess, but it's still mind-blowing. I mean, these are famous maps. They're not like they're maps that have been around for a long time. And I think that we were taking advantage of I mean, lithium is a new theory for me, the lithium firmament concept. But I think we were taking advantage of electro or photoelectric effect, which is my theory on how the airships were refueling themselves. Because they had fueling stations, but I don't think they had enough helium in there. I don't know how they were creating helium, probably using sunlight. So this is something that really fascinates me. And I think it could help us understand even how modern air travel works. And I mean, India is probably like the most profound location for these very detailed of Vimana style stone designs where they're using like iron stone with a consistency of like iron, basalt, granite, crazy levels of detail. And I haven't personally been to India, but I think they had everything. I think they had flying devices, and if they could do that with the temples, carving these temples out of a solid rock, then I'm sure they were able to do all kinds of other magical things because they definitely had the
Yeah, I
technology
think
for it.
yeah, the mainstream narrative says that the Indus Valley had central heating from steam in the cities. So I mean, if they're
That's
conceding,
crazy.
yeah, if they're
Yeah.
conceding that, I don't know how you would
Okay,
think it
I've got
stops
to look
at
into that.
just heat.
Yeah. Yeah, someone
Yeah.
sent me
So
some
yeah, India.
documents. Yeah.
My
Yeah,
bad.
someone sent me. Sorry, I think something we overlapped. I thought you'd stopped talking, but you hadn't. Yeah, yeah. I mean, someone sent me about the comparisons between the Egyptian and Indian gods, and uh, pressurized gas possibly being used in ancient India. But I thought all of that was invented in the World's Fair, you know. So, so I don't know how they were pressurizing
Yeah,
gas and yeah.
yeah. I mean, and then and nobody really talks about it in the Civil War. They had a team. They had like hydro. They had helium carts that they would drag around. I don't know if it was by horse or whatever. They got pictures of them. It was like helium carts, and then they did the balloon warfare. They would be in the balloon, and nobody talks about that in the Civil War that they were fighting. They had a whole. Let me get the name of that.
Yeah. Yeah, the Civil War is insane because we're told obviously that um I guess the North
The
won.
Union Army
So
Balloon Corps.
that's insane.
Yeah,
Sorry, I gotta have a look at that. I haven't heard of this.
yeah, they were fighting with the balloons. They had like a whole bunch of portable helium stations, and who knows if that's what they were using. You know, they just say that, but um,
Damn,
I
yeah.
never knew about that. I never knew about that. You know, so if they were using that then, who knows, man?
So where did this come from? I mean, because if there wasn't a helium that had to be supplied, if the helium could be created using the etheric energy, right? Because we're talking about ether now, and sunlight, right? Photoelectric effect. So if it was being created, then the whole narrative about World War II in Germany not getting helium from America, it disappeared. So it's connected to a lot of other things. You know, that means Germany decided to stop building airships for no reason. Why? Because why? Like they were creating it out of etheric energy with photoelectric effect. So how do you get helium in civil war? What in the Civil War? I mean, okay, something to do.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know, yeah. There's so many things that just don't really make sense, man. As far as like the evolution of technology, there's so many gaps, and then we're just supposed to just take it like, you know, just had this boom, and then people, and then it's like kind of the same thing as far as like when it comes to amusement. People, the way it's explained is that everybody was just such a hard worker and they're craftsmen. Everybody was just such a craftsman that they built all those thousands of churches or whatever across the land, and then they never had any amusement. But at the same time, you had all these like massive amusement parks like on Coney Island and everything that don't even really look like amusement parks if you look at the old pictures. It looks like something else was going on. So I don't really know. On one hand, you're telling me these people they don't never chill. They just build civilization. And on the other hand, they got these massive amusement parks that
yeah.
look like
But have you looked into
power
the
stations.
World Fairs much? Yeah. Have you looked into like the Chicago, Panama Pacific, St. Louis World Fairs? Have you looked into them? The
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's things that I might not know, but I've looked at those ones and some other ones.
I've got a lot of photos, not just of the maps and the tourist attractions, but also the posters and
St. Louis
um,
is crazy. St.
it's
Louis is an amazing
crazy.
city,
Oh my
man.
God, man. Like
And a lot of it got
they've all
destroyed
gone quiet
in
though,
what
you know, those
in
people who said it was
1951.
yeah, like temporarily built from staff and plaster. Like all those people have gone, they disappeared. They used to tell me, "Oh, this is the scaffolding outside the plaster building that they're building." And I said, "But wouldn't you incorporate the scaffolding into the actual structure if you were building a temporary structure? Like, why would you build scaffolding? I mean, the whole thing's made of wood." Yeah, never got an answer. But they've gone. I mean, I had to beat them off with logic. But there were a lot of them. There were a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is ridiculous." This, but then you find out there's actually more buildings. It's not just a few hundred. It's like over 1,500 in the end. I found like 1,500 buildings. Some of
Yeah,
them are
I
colleges
mean,
today.
you've seen the Nashville one
I've seen the Nashville, yeah, Nashville. I've seen the Pan American one.
because that one, the pamphlet people found they have the pamphlet right, and it says that it's fireproof. I don't know any temporary structures that are fireproof.
No, why would you? That is insane. Like you're building a fairground. Why are you making it fireproof if you're going to take it down after a couple of years? Like,
And but it's still there.
and it's still there, right? And it
Yeah,
just
so
happens to be made of stone now. I don't know. I think there's so many lies about it getting burnt down or destroyed and then rebuilding it. It's really all about ownership, to claim ownership. But
Yeah.
you can't claim ownership of something that was already there before history allows you to even exist. So it's like, then we have to look at the original empire, which is obviously the Moorish presidents, the original. Uh, I found 12 Moorish presidents. I found their photos, their names, their places of birth. They are all written into the history of uh, Liberia, I think. Yeah. Just in
Yeah.
case we have a reset, the history of Liberia will give you the presidents all lined up in a row. They all have Western European names, and they were all born in the United States.
Yeah, that's the thing is that it's like how much was destroyed, because like there's like this double-edged sword that they must have been going through where they were like, we need to erase the past as much as possible, but
But we really want to keep it.
yeah, we also want it because we need it to create hegemony. So it's like a
Yeah.
funny space that they're in with that as far as that.
Well,
But yeah,
it's a catch 22, is it? Like when you really want to keep this building or this bridge, right? Beautiful bridge. It was built by the previous Moorish Empire, but you want to keep it so bad because it is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, and you've got no way to build nuts and bolts and rivets that size. You just don't even know what to do. So what do? Okay, you try to make money out of it for a while, but then you got to keep that thing. You got to keep it. How are you going to pretend that it's not good enough anymore? It's like the airships. Oh, the Hindenburg crashed. How many airplanes have crashed? Do we stop using airliners? No. And then you look at like the Ferris wheel in the Chicago World Fair, right? You literally like you got like a 70-ton axle. Like what? There's no infrastructure in America for at least another 5 decades to build that. And they literally left it for 5 years in the bushes somewhere because they didn't even have the technology to break the thing down. Because even though it was obviously worth a lot of money, it's like solid iron, right? And this stuff piles up after a while. The evidence piles up, and then you realize, obviously, you can't have a tower pumping water from the Grand Canyon through its archway, and somehow say that it was a temporary structure made from plaster of Paris. And that's why the World Fairs, I think, are the Achilles heel of this whole kind of construct. And I love it. I love it. I mean, the old photos are still there. You got old photos of victory columns in New York, and the German Empire didn't lose World War II with a Messerschmitt that went 5 times the speed of anything else. I mean, these guys were not losing World War II. They built their new Nazi empire in the Promised Land. Why is
yeah,
nobody
it's
willing
a
to just use logic? I mean, come on. Yeah, they had to blow up a few little cities here and there, but they didn't blow up Tokyo. They didn't blow up Bonn. They didn't blow up Köln. They didn't blow up any of the important places. They pretend they blew up Dresden, but when I go there, it's nothing but old buildings. It's like thousands of ancient structures. They blew up the mascot buildings, like the Frauenkirche. Fine. They blew up maybe the one of the opera houses, but they didn't want to destroy their homeland. That's where all of these guys came from. They called themselves windsoers because they soared on the wind on their Roman armadas, their Moorish armadas, and gave themselves new names. What were the
yeah,
names
and
before?
that's the
Saxe-Gotha,
thing with that's the
Coburg,
things with the name.
Habsburg. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the things with names too. It's like it's just been anglicized. Like the name might not have sounded like that years ago. The inflection on the letters could have been
Yeah, but
different
they're not the royal family either, bro. They're just doing what we're doing. They're just working it all out. In
for
fact, they're
sure. But
following us, finding out more about themselves than they knew before. Let's be brutally
yeah,
honest.
I'm just saying
They are
that.
not the same people. They don't have the same faces, facial structure, anything. Have you
Yeah,
seen the original like portraits of the royal families of like Europe and Britain? Have you
yeah,
seen some of them?
everything's been mutated by and large. But I'm saying
It's
like
whitewashed. They just blatantly whitewashed it all.
it's
They
mutation.
beheaded they beheaded all the black kings, and then it's called a revolution, right? They beheaded all of the black kings, stuck their heads all over the place. Yeah. Now they paint them out of porcelain and call it a souvenir. Like that's what they did. They literally chopped off all the heads of the Moorish royalty because they hated them so much because they were stealing all the beautiful women for their harems back in the United States. That's why there's Moorish domes everywhere. And they were supplying. They created, I think, this supply network of slavery, which was not black people coming over on ships. It was the Moors turning the Slavs into slaves. That's I think the real awakening, which is a very hard thing to comprehend. Yeah,
Creating the Slavs.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, I don't want to believe that stuff. Sorry, I really don't want to believe. Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah, and that because I mean that's like the ultimate. Like you look at like the creator made original man, and then kind of like the same thing with the periodic table. You got a bunch of families on the periodic table, then you eventually reach a point where you have the final bracket is all unstable elements, and it's the same thing, kind of like where there's a the original man, and then it's like a small mutation, small transmutations, and then you get to a point where it's almost unrecognizable from the source. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's just making technology. Like God making people is just like making a tool, like making technology. So like people making other
yeah,
people is just them replicating God, but like in a fucked up way, you know. Just
yeah.
like
So I
super
mean, what kind of
tech,
tool? What kind of tool is able to do what we're doing right now?
like to what? To do what?
Basically
To do
elevating human consciousness. I mean, understanding
oh.
or overstanding even.
I
I
mean that's
mean,
what I guess that's what art is. That's what art is. You know what I mean? Art is supposed to do that. It's supposed to, inspire people and reflect that core template, that core pattern of creation. And if it's in your environment, people are expressing that, that's just gonna bring it out of people, in less and less in a less contrived fashion and more direct, simplistic way. Because what did he say? Like what did if Da Vinci existed, right? What did he say? Simplicity is sophistication. I think it was Da Vinci.
yeah. No, I like that. I like that. But it's hard to simplify things. It's the hardest thing to do.
That's
So,
what the process of art is, though. Is the
but to a child, it looks so simple, right? Just get up in the morning, go to school. Goodbye, mom. Eat some food, you know. It gets really hard later on. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Well, I
because you
mean,
get. I mean, yeah, it just people just get further away from that core.
or maybe
That
we get closer to it
huh?
because nobody ever told me about that till today. Mm.
What?
The helium civil
Oh
war.
yeah, yeah. No, I was just saying, like, as far as like people getting away from that childlike nature, that core, that actual like simple, very direct way of communicating with yourself. Like we just get away from it, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I think it's our purpose though. I mean, what we're doing is very much what we're supposed to be doing, and however we get there, we are evolving, and it doesn't take as much time as they told us it takes. I think you did a reel on this that you get the three generations, and I have an uncle who definitely looks like um like this lady does here. So yeah, I think that whatever changed um, is very confusing to me. But I don't think it was designed by man. I think this is God's plan. And I don't think there was a single white person on Earth before the like 16th century, for example.
See, like
So
it's like, what
yeah,
is a white person? Again, it's like kind of like what is a Moor? What is a white person? You know what I mean? Like what is it? What is even a white person? Like we could get to the definition of
yeah,
that. Like a recessive person probably existed, but a cross of like multiple recessive types, and then they continue to inbreed recessive. Like you got recessive Germans, or recessive Chinese, recessive
yeah,
American, and then you take all those recessive and you just backbreed them with each other to where it's just all these recessive people intermutating, just with other recessives over and over. Where it's like, because that's the thing I think where people, when I say like it's inbred recessives, I think people think that I mean like automatically just cousins and cousins. It's like no, if you get all these different tribes of people, so you get like a recessive Edomite, a recessive Canaanite, a recessive whatever, whatever the tribe is, whatever type part of the land, and you interbreed them together, then you're just gonna get more and more recessive traits. But they're not. That's what allows people to continue to breed in a haphazard way. I mean, Europe has definitely reached kind of its end in that sense as far as replacing itself. It's not they've reached kind of the end, but like For a
Yeah.
while, for a few hundred years, they were allowed to exist because they weren't all the same. Like every nest had its recessive. So you have recessive Italians, recessive Germans, or whatever, recessive Dutch, or whatever. And so like all these different recessives, they didn't look at themselves like a broad sense, like, we're all white people. They be like, look, I'm German, or I'm Norwegian, I'm Spanish. And they knew that they came from a dark archetype of that type of person. But now we've reached a point of just homogeneity where you just say I'm European, I'm white, and it's like, bro, y'all not the same. But now you're making it to the point where that's true because you've broken those walls down, and it's reached a point where, yeah, it's like the point of no return. You can't. You need to return to the archetype, and then it's been in such a destructive state where the archetype can't even really absorb that. The art, you know what I mean? Like if you get like a generation away, you could backbreed into the archetype and then move on down the grapevine. But if you get to a point where you congealed into almost a separate entity of recessiveness to where you're almost like your own mutation, now like for that to get transmutated and like merge back with the grapevine, that would be destructive to the grapevine itself. So that's why I feel like the natural course is just happening where Europe is not replacing itself. The European Americans are not replacing themselves because
Mhm.
it's just not supposed to. It reached its end. Only way they can
Exactly.
replace
Yeah.
themselves, they
I
have they
I
have
agree
to
with it. I
breed.
don't think it's supposed
Yeah,
to. I don't think
yeah,
for the survival of the human race, and necessarily maybe we had to adapt, or we had to make more of less sunlight. So I believe in like Michelle Gibson's theory of our energy grid being hacked by demonic entities, maybe fallen 200 fallen angels. I think that happened around 1914. I think that all the Moors were removed from Europe around 1498, but we are still related to them. And I think God allows these events to happen, like 1775, the invasion of America. Something must have been going wrong there because those people weren't really unified. They definitely weren't unified because otherwise, how can these little Moorish European empires destroy the original Moorish empire, right? So, so all of these things, I think God allows it to happen to some extent. If you don't mind me saying God, some people don't like when I say God. I could say creator entity, but yeah. So this is like my theory, and I think that when that energy grid is hacked, the buildings are destroyed, or some of them are destroyed. Some of them can't be destroyed, obviously. But there is a theory in China. There is a story in China in ancient Chinese lore, which talks about that there were 10 suns in the sky. And there's also a lot of Roman myths about a lion eating the sun and suns being destroyed. So if suns are local, could there have been giants that were powerful enough to form weaponry that could then bring down the suns? And maybe these were the demons. This was part of hacking the this kind of energy grid. I it just is such a profound thing because to find the energy grid is a big awakening in itself. But then also to realize that it was hacked and manipulated and destroyed because that's our life energy. We could have lived hundreds of years. I mean, we know like Abraham, we have like stories of like Enoch living like 800 years. So um not having to eat, not having to defecate, not having to eat, actually consume physical matter, maybe being able to harness etheric energy. That's why maybe your skin has to also alter or change. You have to adapt to the realm. I don't believe in Darwin's theory of evolution, but I do believe that we could adapt to almost any level of magnetism, anything really. So there's the story that the sons of the heavenly emperor, so that's the idea of fallen angels, that that their mother would often have 10 children bathe in the sea, and after bathing, they would perch on a large tree in the sea called Fusang, and nine of the sons lived beneath the tree. The, I think this is like the tree of life from like Nordic myth. And when dawn arrived and the world needed the morning light, the sun perched on the treetop would ride a chariot guided by their mother. This is so similar to the chariot of heaven, like biblical. And then you have crossing the sky, illuminate the earth, bringing light and warmth to the people. The 10 sons took turns in an orderly manner, and everything in the world flourished. everyone was grateful for the sun's energy and the vitality and filling their lives with a high frequency. So the 10 sons grew impatient with the happy and harmonious life. And they didn't want to take turns. They didn't like the idea of taking turns and letting the next son go first or second, and they hated the routine. So now we have this Chinese myth of why don't we all go to the sky together? And then you get this melting, right? This reset of everything, literally the buildings melting, turning into even giants melting, right? This kind of Armageddon, this fire from heaven that we hear about in the Bible, and you have nine suns all going out into the sky together. So you have an overload of the grid, and it's like 10 fireballs of heat and light, and the farmers couldn't look after the fish. Fish were dying in the rivers. You get people, the crops are dying. Everyone's, it's like Armageddon, right? So then you have a person called Hu Yi, and he was petitioned by the heavenly emperor to take the suns down, to take these demonic Luciferian entities down, and he gave him a divine bow, a bundle of white feathered arrows, saying, "You white feathers, yeah, so, you must only frighten the 10 sons, but not harm them." And he decided to go overboard and basically killed them and left one in the sky. Yeah, and they all fell down to earth. And there's much more to the story. I'm just abbreviating. But in ancient China, they have this regular festival, and he says, "You are too impulsive. You didn't fully understand." So I think Satan was the one that destroyed these angels. They fell down to earth because he killed them, but then he also had to join them because he was this ended up not listening to God, not following the instructions. So that's my own personal take on it. And you only have one son left, right? The Son of God, the final son, which rose from the Eastern Sea and set behind the Western mountains. Yeah, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds similar to like kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like as far as India and the Norse mythology having the tree of life, and India having the tree of life, or
Yeah,
Kemet
they had the same.
life, or Kabbalah having a tree of life, and then you have the inverse underground part, like in Kabbalah, they call it the Klipoth. It's just the reflection that's underneath the soil, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I think yeah, like it's just like a grid, just like your body's a grid, the Cathara grid or whatever, the tree of life, whatever, what have you, and
Hmm.
so I think that has broken down, like whether they say like strands of DNA are just not expressing themselves. And I think that's like by design. I don't think that's like by happenstance. I feel like from what I've come to is that the Japheth is at some point him or his seed either through like an ethereal conversation or connection with an angel, fallen angel, what have you, a program, they devised this idea to like create a vessel that could be easily occupied by those entities. So then you have some
Could
sort of
that be
chimer.
compared to like selling your soul, maybe for physical things? Or
No, I think it's a genetic chimerism that happens, and that's why you have the different blood types. You have your Rh negatives and your Rh positives because one is the fallen angel line, one is the negatives or the fallen angel line. They have an injection of part animal DNA just so that they can be a more open, because like you have the original man is supposed to be autotrophic, is not supposed to consume anything because atoms don't eat anything. So that's the natural state of man. But if you cross that with animal, then it's in this like animal spirit program, realm that's like a part of it. And then just makes it like kind of like an open phone that you can put any SIM card in. So it's like you made this cracked human that can now be, you know, inhabited by a fallen angel, demonic entity, a program, what have you. And that it gets into the human system at that point and replicates through conquest, rape, what have you, or just like gradual, like a fungus, just gradually expanding, and just novelty as well. Not even always those other like blunt ways of rape. People rape themselves just through the novelty of it. Like they think something's different, so it's rare, so it's more special, but it's
Mm.
actually just more corrupted. So then I feel like that's why you have, like they say, like sub-Saharans don't have animal DNA. People that are so-called black don't have animal DNA. It's because everybody else is heterozygous because they're crossed with that, whatever that is, whatever you want to call it. However, that chimerism took place, whether it's through gene editing, however you want to say it took place, or if you go with like a more organic way, like the Jersey Devil lore, where it's like somehow they take a woman's embryo and impregnate it with some sort of animal entity and then cross it, backbreed it with a human. However you want to look at that, but that some sort of chimerism happened to make it a more open vessel, and then that replicated and continued to replicate. So it's like a corrupted. That's why I say we're not all related, because there's that entity is not of the father. That entity is of the matrix. So like that is another creation that has pretty much crossbred into the original system of man. So now everybody, it's not everybody, but a lot of people are hybridized. They're heterozygous. They'll test their blood and it'll say I'm O positive, A positive, but they're heterozygous. They're big D, little d. So they have some sort of animal genetics in them somewhere. They're a carrier of the negative, the Rh negative. And that's why the Rh negative womb usually generally rejects Rh positive seed and it will destroy it like it's a foreign entity. It's because they're not even the same species. One is more like an animal celestial chimera, and one is actual original man. And this access had to happen through original woman. That's why they say, black man is God. And then as far as like that's what as far as if you go into like Hebrew Israelites, they be like, the black man is original, and then that created all the peoples of the world, and then the black woman created everything else. It created white people, whatever, because that's like the access point is through the
Mm.
woman. Because you can't corruption of the seed is so much more difficult. You got to corrupt the woman in order to try to vicariously corrupt the seed. Because mitochondrial DNA
Yeah,
is
it
not.
definitely goes through the woman, not the man. That's why a lot of the royal families actually they're like gender swapping so that they can protect the lineage. So you think you're talking to the king, but you're actually talking to the queen, and I think that goes back thousands of years. And I think it started with protecting the king and queen, protecting the lineage, the seed. So it definitely goes through the woman, not the man. So whatever we're being given about, oh, this is the king of this, it goes through the man, the whole lineage goes through the man. That's not true. It never did. It's the woman that carries the next generation of that lineage. So whenever you're being told, oh, you know, uh,
For the
the man
mutants.
pays the dowry, all of that garbage, right?
No, for the
It's actually
mutants.
not.
For the
Yeah.
mutants, for the mutated people, this matriarchal matrilineal. For original people, the seed is the seed determines the sex, the line. That is the original template. That's the original blueprints coming from the seed. But
It's just there aren't any examples of animals and people having hybrid cre creatures anymore. There may have been in the past, but the rules have definitely changed. Some frequency has shifted. It could be different ages, kind of recalibrate the matrix so that now everyone gets energy instead of just a few people, or people live longer, people live shorter. Like you are right about something that most people don't understand, that there are certain people from certain countries have to take medicine, right, in order for the woman to go through the full pregnancy to stop the immune system fighting the embryo or something. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, well, yeah, because the
Because I
anybody
have
Rh
heard of
negative,
that, but that's very niche, right? I mean, that's most people don't know that.
15% of the population.
So most people think that anyone can breed with anyone and have a child, and the child will be a
Yeah,
mix of
we're
both
talking about
people's
like
DNA.
one out of five people. We're talking about like one out of five people are the not
Yeah.
a human, and then you got
Mm.
probably 80% of people are hybridized with that and original human. So it's not. That's the thing. That's the issue. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying is more so like that. All
Yeah.
that mutant or that mutation that is of the mother. That's not of the father. Because the core, the seed, the template, that can't really be corrupted. Like you can
Mm.
mitochondrial DNA can mutate in one generation because it's not in the nucleus of the cell. It's more exposed. Whereas that nuclear DNA that you get nuclear DNA from the X chromosome too, but the mitochondrial is easily mutated. But the nuclear DNA that's coming from the man, that you can't really break that down. You have to break down his woman and then and make him try to breed with something else. But even still, like that seed is still what it is, and the template is there. Whereas like if you get a mutant that's from the mother, from the matrix, from the matriarchy, that is something that is totally, generally speaking, that's not. It will never be man. It will always be a creature. Like it'll always be something else that's not man. It can still be a part of the collective and be supportive of the creative process, but it's a different species of thing. And even if a original man breeds with a hybrid or breeds with a non-complete human, I guess you could say something that's a chimera, that the placenta is largely, by and large, formed by the DNA of the man. So that's the only thing that protects the seed, because when that blood crosses over, then you get that reaction where the woman will reject. That's usually in like subsequent pregnancies. But in the first one, you can have a chance of this pregnancy surviving because the placenta is the man. It's his DNA. So in that first pregnancy, you have the possibility of having a pregnancy without too many complications. Likely the kid will be jaundice or something, or have other effects from that because it's not supposed to happen. But you still will have a full term pregnancy that goes through without death.
Yeah, I find that like a very interesting topic. I don't know much about it, I have to be honest, but I have heard something about certain medicine has to be taken. I don't know if it's like African, sub-Saharan African, maybe mating with a Northern European, and it is a
They
touchy
call it a
subject.
Rogam shot.
Yeah, yeah,
They call
something
it a
like that.
Rogam shot.
Yeah,
Yeah, they call it the
I've
Rogam
definitely
shot.
heard
But
that. Yeah.
there's dark skin Rh negative people.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
obviously
again,
we
like
know there's dark-skinned Europeans. There's, these French,
yeah,
the dark-skinned French. They're not from Africa. They are Fran. They're native French. So it is super interesting. It's yeah, but I
yeah.
yeah, not don't know much
I
about
mean,
it. But something to
like
look
if
into for me.
yeah,
Like,
it's like if you go to Chad, there's people in Chad that are super black, but they're from the R haplogroup. They're not like
yeah,
the rest of Africa.
it's very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, cool. This is a really amazing conversation. This is insane. Yeah, yeah. It's wonderful to talk to you, man. Like, really. I'm gonna be listening to it a few times, the conversation we've had, and there's so much information. There's like a library worth of knowledge going on here. So,
Yeah, man.
yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have chatting with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you for
Thank
your time, man.
and
Serious.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you to everybody that ends up listening to this, man. Appreciate you guys.